Welcome back, guys. It's me, your favorite German again. And today we are talking about why the US military is the strongest in the world. If you would like to support me for what I do, please leave a like, subscribe and comment what you want to hear or want to see next. And now let's head straight into the video for today. And before I forget it, you can also write a suggestion into the comments already why you think the US military is the strongest in the world and not we as Germans or Russia or somebody else in the world. Would like to know that.
Why is the US military the strongest? Great military powers have been appearing and disappearing since the beginning of history. Now is the time for the United States of America to be the leader in military might. But what makes it so powerful? Will its power remain undisputed? Are there already signs of weakness? Would it really stand in a conflict with potential rivals like China or Russia? To find out, we should analyse why exactly the US military is considered the strongest. The numbers. The US has 1,400,000 active military personnel. This figure places it in third place in this category. China has the largest army with slightly above 2 million soldiers.
Okay, they are the third place in that ranking here, but I think you have to measure how many people the country itself has. As we, for example, we Germans, we have around 85 million people. And I don't exactly know, I didn't see it in the statistic here, how many we have in the military, but I bet the percentage between the population and who is in the military has quite a gap in Germany and is a little bit better for the people in the US, I guess.
While India comes in second place. This doesn't sound that impressive, but what makes the US military stand out is not necessarily the raw number of men. The US has unquestionable air supremacy. The US military is number one in air power, with 13,264 total military aircraft.
Sorry for interrupting. 13,000 military aircrafts. I guess we as Germans, we have like 2 or 3 who are functionable and like 10 who are, with our mechanics all the time and not 1 minute in the air the whole year. I think that's around like our statistics. Yeah, sadly enough.
A total that is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined. 2,085 are air-to-air fighters, 715 ground attack aircraft, 945 transportation aircraft, 5,768 helicopters, and 967 attack helicopters. The US is number one in each aircraft category except for air-to-ground forces, where it's slightly topped by Russia. The US has a powerful navy that is designed to work in conjunction with its air forces. It has 20 aircraft carriers, 11 are regular fixed-wing carriers, while 9 are capable of hosting only helicopters and short takeoff planes like the F-35B. This is almost half of the world's total number of aircraft carriers, while most of the others belong to allied countries. If we take into account only regular fixed-wing aircraft capacity, the total combined deck space of the US aircraft carriers is over twice that of all the other nations combined. To complement this, the US Navy has the greatest number of destroyers and ranks third in the number of submarines. The numbers of the US naval strength are a bit tricky. If we count the total number of naval assets, the US falls in 4th place, behind Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising 1st place. However, in case of American...
The thing with North Korea is you can't really trust the numbers they give you, I guess. I don't know where the numbers come from, but we all know that North Korea is a little bit special when it comes to the truth, I would say, especially in that context. But let's continue.
Time conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by overwhelming air supremacy and allied forces. Land power. The US is slightly behind Russia regarding raw numbers. American ground forces number 6,289 tanks, 39,000 armoured vehicles, 1,465 self-propelled artillery, and 1,366 rocket projectors. However, Russia has a lot of outdated vehicles with questionable performance in case of a real conflict. Meanwhile, the US military has a broad technological edge.
With questionable performance, yeah. I think that phrase defines the German military as a whole complex. Sorry.
The US has 5,800 nuclear warheads that make it the world's second largest in nuclear war power. In this video, we're analysing the conventional military strength, but it can't be denied that a nuclear arsenal does bring a certain status. Even if things don't escalate to a full-blown nuclear war, it's intimidating to any country to be armoured with such nuclear power. The quality. The US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century, the US has been involved in military conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, Uganda, and Yemen. While other countries still rely on conscripts to fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets, and the technology used in combat have excellent quality. This is the defining reason why US casualties are usually fewer than those of their adversaries. A strong ability to project power is another defining trait of the United States military. Size, technology, and experience are nothing if you can't reach the enemy. Power projection is the ability of a state to deploy and sustain forces outside its territory. Only a few states are capable to overcome the difficulties that involve power projection, and the US excels at it. This is made possible by several factors. The home base of the US is safe. The neighbouring countries are friendly. Potential enemies are far away. The large landmass makes it a country that is hard to invade.
The enemies are far away. I think the cartels in Mexico are not that far away, but that's not the point of the video, I know, but yeah. Directly at the border of the US, I think there are usually enough problems.
It also has coastlines along 2 oceans and strategic islands that hold military bases. The US forces can reach far, fast, and deploy great numbers of forces supported by the enforcement of air and sea superiority, combined with excellent transportation capabilities. Even if it doesn't engage in combat, the US can enforce naval and air blockades that can severely cripple an enemy's economy. The US has by far the largest network of military bases operating outside of its territory. Information regarding the exact number and location of such bases involves classified information, so we can only estimate the total extent of the overseas.
I don't exactly know. We in Germany have Rammstein and at least one other base, I guess. That's the big ones, but there are a lot of small ones, especially in southern Germany, and I know a few in the north, I guess. So, I don't know. Should be quite a few, in my opinion, at least in Germany. And I think Austria and the other countries are nearly the same as Poland, for example, as well.
These military presence. Back in 2013, the Pentagon stated that there were around 600 military bases overseas. A rough estimate would be around 1,000 overseas US military compounds. Approximately 165,000 military personnel is stationed outside the United States. This doesn't include areas of conflict such as Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The US has significant forces deployed in around 55 countries and autonomous territories. It is also estimated that more than 150 countries have a certain degree of US military presence. Alliances. The United States can rely on a vast network of alliances. It is the de facto leader of NATO, the world's strongest military alliance. 18 other countries are designated as major non-NATO allies. This list includes countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, Argentina, and Brazil. Taiwan's status is a bit more complicated and it can be considered a de facto ally. Some countries are not formal allies but have a strong strategic partnership with the US. One notable example is India, that participates in regular military drills together with US forces and some of its allies. Economy. Modern warfare is sustained in the long term by two main factors: the capacity to produce military equipment and the capacity to spend money on defence. American defence companies are the indisputable top producers of weaponry. Among the world's top 10 defence suppliers, 5 of them are American companies.
Boeing.
Lockheed Martin is the biggest. It reported a revenue of almost $60 billion in 2019. That's close to Russia's entire annual military spending. The strength of the US military is also due to its huge military budget. In 2019, spending on the US military was a whopping $732 billion. That's almost 3 times more than China, the world's second largest military.
At least we're at 50. Okay, that's far away from 732. Yeah, but the outcome for the German spend is hideous, really. You can't tell anybody what's going on in Germany with our military. That's so sad, I tell you.
Military spender and is roughly 1/3 of the entire world's defence budget. While Russia is commonly regarded as the second most powerful army in the world, its budget consists of only $65 billion. Arguably, there is an aspect of purchasing power. For example, it's cheaper to pay a Russian or Chinese soldier, but the cost of high-quality military equipment is still the same around the world. The reason that the US can afford such an enormous military budget is that it's supported by a strong economy. America has been the world's largest economy since 1871. Its nominal GDP is currently $21.44 trillion. This is almost a quarter of the global economy, and it's backed with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure, and technology. Besides the ability to sustain an enormous defence budget, the US often uses its economic strength as a weapon by enforcing economic sanctions. Soft factors. Soft power is another factor that comes into play when assessing a country's might. The US is world-beating in culture, education, and technology. American pop culture has an enormous influence, and this won't change anytime soon. America also hosts most of the world's top-ranking universities with a record number of international students. The US leads the world of technology and digitalization as home to the world's most influential tech companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. It's easy to think that this doesn't seem important in warfare, but imagine an enemy soldier that would have to attack the country where his cousin studies, the country of his favourite music band, the country of his favourite actors from the movie that he watches on an American media platform like YouTube, or an American smartphone with American software. Finally, there is another critical aspect. It is called the will to fight, and this is the single most important factor in war. The will to fight is the disposition to engage in combat, the determination to keep fighting even when facing precarious odds, and finally to win. At an individual level, a soldier with a low will to fight will avoid engagement with the enemy and is likely to flee when things get tough. A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken.
A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken. That's 100% true in my opinion. Because just have a look at the last 100 or 200 years, because that's pretty present. But you can take a look at the last few thousands of years, I guess. And yeah, that's a pretty deep quote, but it's very, very true. And yeah, especially we Germans have a history in the last 100 years where this is true as well. And maybe you can now comment where you are exactly from and I think some of you might be from the US, but I think there are watching people from all over the world. So you can tell me how it is in your country, and just a little bit to another direction now, what your opinion is on the military of your country especially. Okay, that would be very interesting for me.
Wars don't end when one military destroys the other. Wars end when one side grows weary of fighting, doesn't see any further purpose in the continuation of the conflict, and gives up. The national will to fight is what keeps a nation fighting. This is commonly linked to a sense of patriotism, national identity, and motivation generated by the idea that one fights for what is.
And that's one point I really love America for. It's your patriotism, guys. I know many people from the US are watching this, and we as Germans, after the Second World War, we have been trained to not love our country, sadly, and that put a big gap between the people in the country, because even in schools you are taught that your land is bad, and just look at what we have done in the history, even if nobody of us today has something to do with it, what happened. And I think that's really, really sad and not good for our country. Yeah, that's why I appreciate and look up to the US guys, so the people from America, that your patriotism is such at a high level. I appreciate that very much, and yeah, I'm pretty happy for you guys.
Right. In the past, this has been a strong point of the US, as Americans have been fighting against dictators and terrorists that lacked concern for human life and dignity. In contrast, the USA has been regarded as a country that embodies values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. It was the country that defined such values. Even more, it was the country that was willing to fight for these values. The American soldier has been motivated by a sense of moral supremacy rooted in the country's Christian tradition. However, America doesn't seem to be so cohesive in its values anymore. There are many factors intertwined that provoke this. It's a complex topic that deserves a study on its own. But the outcome is that America is now a country that is greatly divided among ideological lines and systems of belief. Many of its citizens are not sure what to believe in anymore.
But that is a worldwide problem, in my opinion. We in Germany have that as well for 100%, and that's what is pretty bad. And I think by a few people in the world it's wanted like that. So just let's stand together and not divide us, but let's keep together, keep in touch, and yeah, just work together as a unity, in my opinion, as good as we can.
Or even what they stand for. There have been many lessons in history. Small nations became great empires by holding high moral standards along with a disciplined and motivated army. A great empire's fall was usually preceded by internal strife and moral crisis. The final story of the United States of America as a global power is not yet written. The nation's strength rests upon its citizens and their decisions. It's a matter of this great nation getting back its cohesion and moral compass. That is, if it wants to keep its status as the world's greatest superpower and defender of freedom.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was a pretty accurate documentary, and it hit me a little bit because I realized once again that we as Germans, for example, are so far away from you in the US, for example. And I think everything went down for us the last years, but it will go up at some point, but we have to fight as a unity for that going up again. And the same is for the US citizens, in my opinion. Just fight for your country, guys. Don't let anyone divide you, your family, your friends, nobody. And when we stand there as a unity, we have the biggest chances to get everything we want and to keep the peace and everybody who has died the last hundreds of years in any war can be proud of what we have today. So we have to keep it as best as possible. I think you know what I mean. Sometimes I'm not that fluent in my English. I hope you understand me anyway, and you know what I mean. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say right now. And now, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did so, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment what you want to see next. And now, thank you guys so much for watching. Till the next time, bye.